Gentleman from Alexandria, Mr. Englin.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, anytime the most conservative members of this body and the most liberal members of this body agree on a set of issues, I think it's an opportunity to sit up and take notice and pay attention. And so as arguably one of the, if not the most liberal member of the body, although my seatmates may disagree with me here, I want to commend the Conservative caucus for some of the items on their legislative agenda, particularly when it comes to the area of budget transparency. I think when it comes to budget transparency, conservatives and liberals strongly agree that we need to have policies and procedures in place to shine as much light on the process as possible so that we all understand and know what we're voting on. And I'm reminded of what happened last year when we got the conference report of the budget at the very last minute. We really didn't have a lot of time to pour through it, and those members of this body who voted for the budget ended up being somewhat surprised to discover after the fact that they had voted, for example, to have taxpayers provide erectile dysfunction drugs for state employees, as one example of the kind of thing where if we had more time to review the budget in advance, I think that we probably would not have supported that provision. So I wanted to commend the Conservative caucus for its emphasis on budget transparency. I also wanted to note a couple of specific constructive suggestions that I'd like to put out there for our budget conferees, as I know you're working hard to try and get us a conference report that we can look at as soon as possible. And the two, what I hope are constructive suggestions, one is based on a piece of legislation that the Conservative caucus had on its agenda, and this was a bill that would have the conference report posted online for 72 hours prior to a vote. Now, I understand we're at a point in the session where 72 hours might be ambitious, but in past years, we have had at least 24 hours to review the conference report before a vote. So I would encourage the conferees and the appropriations staff and, again, conferees from both this body and the other body to make every effort to have that conference report ready early enough for us all to be able to have at least 24 hours to look at it and read it and understand what we're voting on. And the other item is actually based on legislation that my seatmate, the gentleman from Charlottesville, put forward that was not successful legislation, but I think it also serves an important transparency purpose. And this was legislation that would have required accompanying the conference report, it would have required a report listing any non-state appropriation, any item in the conference report that was not included in the general appropriation bill as it passed either the House or the Senate, and also any item that represents legislation that failed in either House during the regular or a special session. That was the legislation. And the good news is I think those are things that the appropriations staff and that the conferees can certainly do without legislation, and I would encourage them to do so that we have both enough time to review the conference report and also we have the appropriate information for us to really have a better idea of specifically what we're voting on. I hope that these are a couple of constructive suggestions that our conferees can take to heart as we move forward. As I said, when conservatives and liberals agree strongly on an issue, it's worth sitting up and taking notice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.